When you were a kid and your parents gave you a specific job or a chore to do around the house that you just did not want to do, how did you usually respond to that? Like when they told you, hey, can you go take the trash out for me? That'd be great. Or they say something like, hey, can you go take the dog on a walk? Or they might even say, can you file the family's taxes this year? Whatever it was that you just did not want to do, what were the things that you said or did in an effort to try to get out of doing that particular job? In my house, it seems like whenever Mandy or I give the girls a chore to do, we usually get one of three different reactions to that. Those tend to be, I don't know how to do it, even though I've shown you how to do it 10 million times. They'll say, in a minute, even though we both know that that minute is just never going to come. Or my personal favorite, I did that last time, it's my sister's turn to do that. But I'm going to assume that your situation was pretty similar to what mine was growing up. You might have whined, you may have complained, you maybe even did everything that you could to try to reason with your parents as to why you should not do the job that they just gave you. But ultimately, you wound up doing it anyway. I mean, it'd be kind of an overreaction to do something like, I don't know, turn and go the opposite direction as fast as you possibly could, hitchhike a ride to halfway around the world away from that particular problem. Nobody's going to respond to something like that, right? Well, let's find out in today's Midweek Moment. Last week we dipped our toes into the story of Jonah. And we really just spent more of our time talking about why this is such an important book for us to look at the whole story, because we tend to miss the forest for the trees, or in the case of Jonah, the one tree. But before you can ever even get to the fish itself, first we have to look at why the fish is necessary. You know, if you just take a couple of my lines completely out of context, sometimes I sound insane. But we've discussed that the story of Jonah is one of the only prophets who had anything remotely positive to tell the nation of Israel. And because of that, he would have been considered a hero to the nation of Israel, because when God spoke to Jonah, nothing but good things happened. And there's probably a part of Jonah himself that bought into that sort of thing. And so it makes sense that when we get to verse 1 of Jonah chapter 1, that at a first glance, this would be exciting news for the Israelites. If they don't read anything beyond that first verse, everything about this feels exciting. Because verse 1 says, "Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah the son of Amittai, saying," oh yeah, here we go. Let's make it happen. The last time that we heard from Jonah, it resulted in the map having to be redrawn because Israel gained more land, or again, reclaimed land that was already theirs to begin with. So what does God have to say in verse 2? "Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and call out against it, for their evil has come up before me." Now, to really understand what it is that God has just told Jonah here, we need some broader contextual understanding. And last week we mentioned how the Assyrians were kind of the big growing monster of a nation at this particular time, that they were doing all sorts of evil things. But at this particular moment, they weren't posing a threat to Israel itself yet. But everybody kind of knew that it was just really a matter of time before the Assyrians came and attacked them. And so God has just told Jonah to go preach into Nineveh, to call out against it. And Nineveh, well, Nineveh is the capital of the Assyrian nation at this time. God has just told Jonah to waltz right into the most wicked, evil nation that he can think of, and to tell them that they are wrong. How do you think that that's going to go over? It'd be a lot like me walking into Dallas and telling everybody that it possibly could, Troy Aikman was just a mediocre quarterback. He only won anything because he was elevated by an incredible run game. It might be true, but that doesn't mean that they want to hear it. So what should Jonah do here? Should he go in boldness, heading into the belly of the beast because he's got the God of the universe behind him, and go and preach the message that God has given him? Well, actually, the text tells us exactly what Jonah did in verse 3. And there we read, "But Jonah rose to flee to Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went down into it to go with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of the Lord." Instead of doing what God had told him to do, Jonah instead chose to run in the opposite direction. If you looked at a map of this particular time and you found where Nineveh was, then you would know that Tarshish is in the exact opposite direction away from Tarshish. And did you catch the way the verse worded this particular thing? When it says that Jonah went away to Tarshish, it doesn't say that he was fleeing the Ninevites. Instead, it says that he was trying to run away from the very presence of the Lord. Now, we know God is omnipresent, meaning that God is everywhere at once, that there is nowhere we can go where we are away from God. Jonah likely knew that as well, and yet still he is trying to do something that he knows is impossible. He is, in essence, trying to get out of doing something that he considers to be impossible by doing something that he knows to be impossible. Some of the things that we know that God asks of each and every one of his followers to do are very uncomfortable, maybe even scary to us. It can be scary to go and share our faith with people around us. It can be scary for us to go and to serve people who don't know us, who don't understand why we're doing this sort of thing. It can be scary to be called to love people who will not love us back. But here's the thing. God always has a reason behind why he's telling us to do these things. He doesn't ask us to do something that is not in some way going to benefit us or benefit the other person, or most of the time, both. In this text, God has called Jonah to do something that he considers to be impossible. He has called Jonah to go into the very heart of this enemy nation and preach repentance to them. I doubt very sincerely that God was doing this because he wanted to punish Jonah in some way, or that he wanted to see Jonah get hurt in some way, or that he wanted to see Jonah killed because of this sort of thing. But because it seemed scary, because it seemed impossible, because it seemed like it would be difficult, or maybe simply because he just didn't want to do it, Jonah ran in the opposite direction. And spoiler warning, we're going to see that this isn't going to work out real well for Jonah in the long run. Sometimes God asks us to do uncomfortable things. But here's something I do know. Oftentimes, these provide us an opportunity to see him do incredible things through at work. When we choose to avoid the things that God calls us to do, we are robbing ourselves of an opportunity to see our faith in action, to see what God can do with what we bring to the table. When we get to see God move in these incredible ways, it can only draw us closer to him. And as Jonah is going to find out, it's always better for us to do what God calls us to do, for us to seek after the things that God calls us to seek after, for us to chase after the things that God says are worthy of our pursuit. When we do that, when we live under the will of God, we're going to see God do incredible things. So yes, sometimes what God calls us to do is uncomfortable. Sometimes it is scary, but it is always worth it. It is always worth it. As a reminder to you, for the month of September, our book of the month is After I Believe. This is a great book. It's, again, specifically written to people who are new to Christianity. But I still think that there's a lot in here that is going to be worthy of your time as well. This is a great book for you to not only read for yourself, but to also have on hand to read with somebody else who maybe becomes new to faith, or is questioning faith, or is not sure how to get started in faith. This is a wonderful book. It's again, I love this book. I love the fact that it also gives us recommendation for more books. I am a nerd. I love reading, so it's great for me for that. But for the month of September, make sure you pick up at least one copy of After I Believe. It's going to be totally worth your time. Like I said last week, I'm excited that the midweek moment is back, and I'm excited to continue on through the book of Jonah with you. But this has been your midweek moment. Take care of yourselves and each other.